I'm Clayton Thomas. I'm the founder of the Root Brands, and I'm with...
He has no clue who I am.
That's the best part.
Well,
Valerie's going to do her introduction here.
Yeah, it's true. I'm a big girl. I'm Valerie Orsoni. I'm a biohacker at heart. I've been doing that since 1998, before the word was even coined. I've written 55 books on healthy living, and I'm so excited today to interview our dear Clayton, who is red today, and it's not because of the sun. Why?
No, I used a little Zodid support powder this morning in my bone broth. I actually used 3 times as much, so my liver is in full flush mode right now. So you can see things work by their outcome.
By the way, that's a proof. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it hits like a ton of bricks when you use it.
Do you feel something? Like, do you feel hot?
I'm hot.
Flash? You're hot.
Yeah,
You're hot. We know that.
Yeah.
It's hot. But okay,
yeah,
feel hot.
It clicked, and it's really the beautiful part from a bioscience engineering standpoint of having a nanotechnologist and a bioscience engineer that's been able to create, products and formulas to get real outcomes. Because when you get rid of the fillers and you get rid of the fluff,
it's more efficient.
And you really use science,
more potent.
Yeah, you get outcomes.
So what exactly is the name of that product?
So this is the Zodid support powder. So it's part of the Clean Spirits line. Is what Christina did. We know that addiction is a big issue now. Alcoholism, opioids, cannabis. And yes, cannabis can be habit forming and can be addictive. There's genetic precursors, and good thing we have a genetic panel to actually, discover that. But all of these things create massive amounts of toxicity in the liver. So Christina, because she speed reads and she has an eidetic memory, she went through all of the literature on what some of the top addiction recovery centers were doing from a protocol standpoint, took all that information and then created the Clean Spirits line that's already patented for alcohol metabolism in the liver, and it works outstanding. But the combination of those 3 products is unlike anything that we've ever seen before.
I want to try that
for addressing it. So.
But see, if I have no addiction, I can still use it to flush my liver, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the one big thing that's begun to be a topic of conversation over the last 5 to 10 years is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right? And because
I was born with it, it's extremely rare. I had severe steatosis, diagnosed when I was 12 years old.
Well, this is because
I was like,
but you're a victim of your environment.
Okay.
When we were having dinner,
That's
and it's really the important part of being able to look at the big picture for
That's
people.
true.
Especially in this space of biohacking versus bioscience engineering, or where Christina is, and understanding the pathways, but also understanding the etiology and the root causes of what problems are. And you have to look at environment.
The big picture.
But one of the things that people don't pay attention to is the environmental impact transgenerationally.
Yeah.
That you come from a very unique area.
I come from Corsica. Where we eat a lot, not a lot, but we eat a lot of seafood. Part of it is tuna, which we know is end of chain, very heavy in lead mainly.
Yep.
And also we eat a lot of wild game, boars and stuff. And
which is really, really good, but depending upon the environment and what their diet is. So Corsicans, based on research and a lot of the history, are high in mercury.
That's true. And by the way, I had no clue.
Right?
Yeah. That's so interesting.
When we look at these things and you start to look at history and you say, oh, well, and it's not a genetic issue, it's actually a familial issue, because women pass environmental toxins down maternally about 7 generations deep. So what was in your mother, what was in your grandmother, what was in your great-grandmother has all been passed into you. And that's all done in the womb. I'm
like a tuna, I'm at the end of the chain.
Right, and we are the apex predator, unless we're in the water, and then we might be top 3. But we are that apex predator, so we typically eat other predatory meat sources, because they have the highest protein content, which is what we need. But in so doing, you're building up another level of toxicity. And if you're not constantly dealing with it, if you're not cognizant of it, and it's the one thing in this biohacking conversation that people have to understand, the foundation to this, and if we're looking at building a financial plan, or if you're building a house, or if you're building a city, you have to have a foundation. And if you don't have that foundation, you can't build anything on top of it. that foundation when it comes to our health and performance happens to be the detoxification of all the heavy metals, the environmental toxins, the chemicals, the pollutants, everything else. If you're not doing that as a foundation, nothing else is actually going to work.
But you know what's interesting is, even if I were not Corsican, when I was a kid in France, people would eat canned tuna a lot.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not Corsican, you're French, Spanish, Italian, American, the consumption of tuna until very recently, and even now, people who don't know, was huge. Almost every day, every 2 days, you would eat tuna and you would accumulate. So even if I were born in France and raised there, I would have the same situation. So question for you, where and how do we get tested for mercury and toxic metals, heavy metals in my body?
Well, it's really interesting, because if you look at metals, people want to know, well, how much do I have in me? The hard part is if you look at mercury and lead and aluminum, right? They're highly neurotoxic. And mercury is the second most deadly chemical known to man.
What's the first one?
Dioxin, which is what they use to make Agent Orange. So we know that's really good at killing stuff, right? We know it's probably not going to use that. Mercury's, and you take out the radioactive isotopes because they do their job really quickly. Mercury's really unique because in most instances, exposure is not going to kill you. It's going to destroy you, but
slowly.
It is highly nefarious. It is the worst neurotoxin known to man. So it's lipophilic, which means it's so toxic that the body has to sequester it really quickly, but because of how it works, it's going to find its way into your neuronal network. So brain, central nervous system, it's going to create disruptions, but it's hormone mimetic. It has this entire cascade that it'll work on, but it will disrupt every single system of the human body, but it'll do it differently in every single individual.
Very vicious.
It is so nefarious and so genius in what it does. And one of the worst aspects of it is the fact that it amplifies the effects of other toxins in the body. So you might look at, glyphosate, lead, cadmium, arsenic,
if you add
cesium,
mercury
strontium,
to it, it's like...
It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 111.
Yeah, it's exponential.
Right? And that impact is what's causing this cascade of symptomology throughout our population. It's causing the weakness in our body that then, if you have a poor diet, or if you're eating things that are loaded with other environmental toxins, right? And then if you're getting shots, right, from childhood going forward, those things will decrease immune function, and in most instances add even more aluminum or mercury into your body.
Yeah.
The amplification of those leads eventually to a tipping point, right? That we all have a body burden, right? And if you were to go from your toes to your head and say, okay, this is your scale.
Yeah.
We're never down by our knees for a scale standpoint. Our body burden is
heart level.
Somewhere much higher, and then incrementally over time, those toxins and those exposures just continue to build up, and eventually it goes, you're at the point where now you're symptomological of these things, and then people think, I have
late.
this. It's never too late. That's actually, we've been able to prove this. No, I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen, and I would never say that without having clinical evidence.
So you say, like, even if I have had, not me in general, but like someone who's been exposed to a lot of mercury and lead and arsenic also all their life, how do they get tested for that? Because a lot of people have no clue. There's a lot of fake. Also, be careful.
There's a lot of
so
bullshit.
many of bullshit on the market. Like, they sell you this testing kit.
Yeah.
It's not scientific. Don't waste your money on that. So which one would you recommend?
In my experience, and I've only been doing this for 20 years, so I'm
learning
a little bit.
He's gonna live until 250, so.
Probably, I don't want to be here that long. But what I found in my experience is doing an unprovoked baseline urine excretion analysis, because of these metals being lipophilic and being neurotoxic, when they're introduced into your body, they're sequestered really quickly, because if they were circulating through your system, they'll kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So they get sequestered. The body's going to suck them away, and they're going to go hide, right? To make sure that they're not going to be able to be removed, but they also shut off, the body's ability to methylate and shut off glutathione production. So all of these issues that people have are actually caused by mercury. But you can't do a blood test for it because blood is just a circulatory medium. So it's a very, very small, quick snapshot.
And we don't have that much here, otherwise we would be dead anyway.
Yeah. And if you had massive amounts of mercury in your blood, you're like, you're on your way out.
That's what I'm saying, that's too late.
Yeah. Well,
but if it's sequestered,
you would have to make some interventions. So urine excretion analysis is the best thing to do.
Okay, urine excretion analysis.
And what we've done is work with our lab and not only have the full panel for toxic heavy metals, but also adding molds in there now as well. So in that process, you then, I would argue, if you go see a practitioner that does chelation therapy, they want to do a provoke study. Don't. Because they want to use EDTA or DMPS or DMSA to basically take your snow globe, right? And this is the way I look at this from a detoxification standpoint, is your body is this snow globe that's been sitting on the shelf. So you've got all the little glitter on the bottom, which are the heavy metals that have been distributed into a specific area, and the water looks great, and that environment looks clean. What these doctors have been doing for years is injecting you with a chelator that mobilizes a massive amount of toxins. So they shake up the snow globe, but they can't deal with that environment because it's incapable of doing that. So what they look at is then urine excretion of saying, oh, well, we use this to mobilize a lot of those toxins. So we're going to see what's coming out of you so they know it's there. Well, this just in, we know it's there. There's not a single person on the freaking planet that's not loaded with mercury and other environmental toxins. Sorry, if you've ever been conceived, you're poisoned.
Exactly.
Right? If you've been born, you're poisoned. They're there. So what then you have to look at is, okay, what's coming out of you as a baseline? And I'll use a really good example. I'll use Stefan as an example because he's given me permission to use his name. He's been in a bunch of biohacking podcasts and his Ultimate Human Things and everything. But in talking with him, he lost a lot of weight from doing different injections, which I would never recommend, but now he's got full-blown alopecia, right? So I'm pretty sure that's not considered success in becoming...
Maybe too much testosterone, DHEA could impact,
he's so loaded with mercury that he couldn't even function. And I sat down with him initially when we started this process, and I'm like, bro, you're loaded with massive amounts of mercury. And he's like, well, where from? I'm like, well, your history. And he's like, well, once I lost this weight, I needed more protein, so I started eating a lot of tuna. I'm like, he's in Vegas. So I'm like, great. So you're eating a lot of Pacific ahi because you're going to Nobu and you're going to places and you're ordering good sushi to get good tuna. He's like, yeah. I said, well, we did his baseline, had him send in his urine sample, and he was throwing, on a scale of 0 to 10, a 3.9 for mercury. It should be 0, which... that was sign number 1. He was also throwing a bunch of cesium. And he's like, what's cesium? I'm like, well, do you know what Fukushima was? He's like, is that when we dropped the bomb on Japan? I'm like, no, that was Hiroshima. Fukushima was the meltdown that dumped all this radiation into the Pacific Ocean. Well, 2 of the primary radioactive isotopes that were dumped into the ocean were cesium-137 and strontium-90.
End up in the tuna.
So the fish are loaded with not only mercury now, but those radioactive isotopes. He's eating them and it shows in his urine. So it's like, here's your baseline. This, not ideal. This shows I was right. You're loaded with mercury. Put him on clean slate for a couple weeks, titrated him up, and I wanted to get some additional testing on it so we could see what's coming out through the progress, but he was so mercury toxic, couldn't even get him to pee in a cup right. Got him to 10 drops twice a day, did that for a week, just got his labs back, and his mercury excretion went from a 3.9 to a 0.6. So we cleaned out so much in that time frame that we're already seeing this massive decrease in excretion.
So if you already have a 0 when you do the test,
you ideally want to have a 0.
So if you have a 0 and you take clean slate or something, how do you see the progress?
If you're following up with additional screens, right? And this is where you do the baseline and then you want to do some things that help support the removal of those metals. So you can do that for a couple days, do another urine excretion analysis, send it into the lab, and you're going to see different things come out. Now, this gets into a budgetary aspect for a lot of people because you can, doing labs continually have a cost. So
how much is the test?
You'll spend about $125 just for the the heavy metals, but if you want heavy metals and mold, I think it's about $250.
Okay.
I mean, so it's not bad.
It's not bad, but if you can't afford it,
you can do it on a budget.
Yeah, you can do it once every few months. You don't have to do it every 3 weeks.
And you can watch your own personal outcomes, because when doing this right, things change biologically pretty quickly. The body starts to adapt. It's like I just did about 45 minutes ago, taking the support powder with my bone broth, and after about 10 minutes, it goes, hello, your liver's ready to go. You get the niacin, you get the garlic, and away goes the experience of getting a little flush and getting warm really quickly.
Maybe I should do that when I'm in Antarctica. It's going to get warm.
It will heat you up. That'll be one of the things. You throw in some good bone broth.
So guys, I'm going to talk with Clayton after that, because my next big project, I have 2 mountaineering projects in Nepal and 1 crazy one in Antarctica. And I was telling him I need some support because it's so intense physically. And you said you would help me.
No, absolutely. You know, one of our case studies, Attila, is the world record holder in outdoor endurance swimming. And he was doing a competition off the coast of France a couple of years ago. They had a navigational error, so he ended up being in the water swimming for over 12 hours. Died twice. Wow. So he actually died in the water twice. They pulled him out, resuscitated him, threw him back in like a fish. But Dr. Norbert Keshkesh, who's his doctor and is a collaborating physician with us, he's a doctor for the Hungarian Olympic Committee, put a concoction together in a water bottle of, I think it had some coconut water with a bunch of clean slate, zero in it, restore, relive greens, and he was living on that while he was training.
What's in clean slate? What's the main ingredients?
The powerful component of clean slate is a very, very special original raw ingredient of clinoptilolite. It's actually the purest form of clinoptilolite available on the market. It's 97% pure clino, 3% bentonite, that has a 66.7% silica content. And what makes clinoptilolite really unique when used properly, and I will say, if you're not using clean slate and you're doing this zeolite research, don't use anything but clean slate, because it's the only one that's processed properly. And the beautiful part of this crystal is it's this class of crystals and clays that have been used for environmental remediation since they came out of volcanoes. But it has this innate cage structure that is a sodium aluminosilicate. So when processed properly, and Christina is really the first one that's figured this out, because I've worked in this space for 2 decades, that she figured out how to break apart this crystal but not damage this bioavailable silica that is so important to us. The same way that silicon microchips are important to computer systems, we're a biological computer and we need orthosilicic acid or bioavailable silica. So she figured out how to fracture this cage into smaller fragments, load it with trace minerals, load it with some ascorbic acid to improve cellular permeability, and then program it. Because you can program crystals really easily, but also water and products with intention, with the intention of what you're doing, with love, and in a specific design. And she's using some polarization and other components to amplify the charge and the effects of the crystals. So it's something that is very unique, because it's going to go in, it's going to start grabbing onto different environmental toxins throughout your system.
Mercury, lead,
lead, calcium, fluoride. So the interesting part when we talk about biohacking in the pineal gland is people talk about you have to decalcify your pineal gland. Yes, that's crucial, but you also have to recrystallize it, right? Because on the outside it might be calcified. On the inside, there's little crystals inside your pineal gland that are resonators with light. So, and when we look at that, it's the circadian rhythm, right? So light during the day that's going through your eyes,
exactly.
But then also the spiritual light that's coming from top down. So when you look at your chakras and everything else and feeding your third eye, that you've got both frames of reference. If those crystals aren't amplified, you're going to not have the resonance that you truly are made to. And so she, from a bioscience engineering aspect of understanding the physical, the psychological, the spiritual, and the emotional, that all coincide simultaneously, was able to create a mechanism that's going to grab onto the bad stuff, start cleaning stuff out really slowly, but feeding the trace minerals, feeding the bioavailable silica, so everything starts to kick.
So this is all with clean slate.
That's clean slate. That's the foundation.
That's the foundation of the hubs.
Yeah,
okay.
and then you get to build on top of that, because if you're looking at the Trinity, which is our foundational 3 that she did initially, and that's what we had all the clinical case studies and the data 5 years ago about reversing all the vaccine injuries. Because Dr. Keshkesh had a bunch of athletes that were, some of them were former elite professional athletes that were retired but still training, got sick when it was popular, lost their smell and taste.
Okay.
But then when it became cool to get 2 shots, or it became a requirement in a couple countries, he had 6 cases of people between like 35 and 50 that were well-trained and training athletes.
But not as strong as before.
They were, not when they were younger and professional athletes, but they were constantly training. And they got their 2 shots like most people did, and their C-reactive protein went through the roof, their AST and ALT levels went through the roof, and their pro-BNP markers, which are the inflammation markers for your heart, went through the roof.
So I assume you never got your shots?
No.
Okay.
And I know the data because Christina was working at Bristol Myers Squibb 20 plus years ago on HIV, which was the first studies being done on mRNA vaccines. So, and the thing is on that, everyone knows that they should have never been put in the market. Never. Any mRNA vaccines shouldn't be in the market. They know the data, right? And I think from a population standpoint, businesses are going to do things to make money. That's their requirement because they're publicly traded. It doesn't mean the public has to choose to use them, right? We are given free will, right? So if you don't know and you're ignorant, that's on you, right? So if you're uninformed, it's going to lead, like if you're skiing or if you're rock climbing, right? If you're climbing a mountain and they're like, well, there's signs that say, if you go this way, you're going to fall off a cliff.
If you choose, it's your fault.
Yeah, if you choose to disregard the sign and go, I'm just going to walk over here, and then you fall off a cliff and you die, that's not anyone's fault. You chose.
But what's interesting is 2 days ago, I published on Instagram a post on Tylenol, Advil, all these NSAIDs. I said, please guys, stop taking this and popping this like a candy as soon as you have a little boo-boo. It slows down healing, it's toxic for the liver, and it was like a 10-slide carousel.
Yeah.
I got a lot of people say, oh my God, thank you so much for enlightening us. A lot of other comments were very aggressive.
Well, you also have to remember that most of the shit on social media, but most of the stuff on social media, most of the negative commentary are bots anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's controlled by industry, and in order to trigger engagement on a negative aspect, but most people, no one's gonna fight that argument. Why would you say these things? I'm like, okay, who's behind this?
I know. I was really surprised. I mean, some of them sounded like bots, but some were like normal people.
Yeah, it's good AI.
Or maybe they've been drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yes, well, there's a lot.
The message.
There's a lot of those
coats.
too. Yeah.
The white coats have been telling us for 50 years it's fine.
Yeah. Well, and I was, growing up in a veterinary practice and studying integrative health in humans and animals since I was 2 years old. I mean, I've been doing this for 45 years when it comes to a health standpoint.
So now we know his age.
Yeah, you get a pretty good idea. I'm 50-ish. I can't claim 50 yet because I'm not quite there, but I'm 50-ish.
I can claim it.
I want to. I'm like, look,
I'm 35 in my head.
I'll tell people I'm 60 chronologically because biologically I'm in my 20s. So
That's
it's
good.
like there's a big difference between chrono and bio.
Oh, for sure.
Right? But through studies of studying mineral supplementation when I was 8 years old and having the conversations at dinner with my mom and dad, okay, why do we put a salt block in the field for the horses? And why are they doing that? And what are we doing? And then understanding my blood type and, metabolically how I should be eating and training, that we have to take the time to each understand ourselves, right? Because we're all functioning on the same hardware and the same operating system. We're all human. But the beautiful part and the unique aspect is that we're each an imperfect piece to a perfect puzzle, right? My favorite philosopher wrote that a few years ago. That happens to be my wife. Right. But
she's right.
Yeah, she is. And in so doing, that means first, and Socrates said this, first, know thyself, right? Because if you don't know you, which is the most important subject that each of us have, right? Our most important subject is ourself. The most important investment, the greatest investment you're going to make is in yourself.
In your health.
And in your health and in your performance, because we know scientifically that happy, healthy people actually make more money, right? So if you want money, perform better, right? And you can apply that into any aspect of life. In sports, if you perform better, you're going to make more money. If you're healthy and you're a business person or you're an entrepreneur, if you're able to go harder, longer, you're better making better decisions, you're not getting sick, because being sick is lost time. Time is money. You can apply them in all these different ways. So it's the key component of knowing yourself, knowing how you function genetically, and then applying that into nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, diet, all these different components, and then you get to go. And then you can climb 43 peaks, write 55 books, and do crazy stuff.
Thank you. Just one last thing. I'm not his wife, but I also have a sentence my husband loves very much, which is, don't sacrifice your health for your wealth, because one day you will have to spend all your wealth to maybe try to save your health.
Yeah.
That's my big.
The check always comes due.
Exactly. So
do you know when that check typically is put on the table? Like if we use the reference, do you know what age? And this is actually a science fact.
I would say 35, but let's see.
It's 50. 50 is the golden number. So
Okay.
if you look at the rates of cancer and heart disease and heart attacks and everything,
50.
it's between the age of 45 and 55.
Whew, I made
50 is
it.
the magic number. Yeah.
I'm 55, which means I made it.
So when you look at people dying prematurely and dying young, you'll see most of them die in that range, because you can do pretty much anything you want to the human body for 50 years, and then you pay.
And then you pay the price, yeah.
And so people that are working their asses off to attain some semblance of financial well-being, and if they don't pay attention to the health standpoint, we just had this happen to one of our friends at home. He just retired, last year. 52 years old.
And then heart attack.
55? No, went in to get his knee scoped. His wife is like, look, now our kids are out of the house, we're retired, we're gonna go travel the world, we'll do all this stuff. Go get your knee fixed, go get some knee surgery so you can walk better. He goes in, has knee surgery, comes back out the next day in recovery, strokes out and dies.
Oh, I have a friend like this as well.
And
so,
you go, 52 years old, all done. You go, boop, 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 boop. It's like your check was due and you didn't have enough to cover it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, my dear. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
I love that. I'm going to hang out more with him, because I'm going to climb a mountain, not with him, but with his products. Thank you.
Do it.
Okay, guys, if you missed Chicago, if you missed Los Angeles, it's okay, no panic, because we have the same event in Miami early November. Really come, it's an amazing community. We learned so much, and even if you think you're a biohacker who knows everything, believe me, you will learn something in Miami.